Pixar and Disney have always been the top animation studios in the game, even standing apart when they joined forces. Pixar is the engine that is constantly creating films that break the boundaries and push audiences further. Pixar isn't afraid to say no to Disney when the rest of the world is. The art is what they strive for, and the time it takes doesn't matter as long as they deliver to their fans. How are their villains different from Disney, and why are their characters so flawed? Which film did they say no to being a musical, and will the studio ever make one? What is Pixar's mysterious secret weapon called the Brain Trust? Watch this video until the end to find out all the ways that Pixar is Disney's naughty, risk-taking, rule-breaking little brother that we couldn't love more. Are you new to Screen Rant? Welcome. Give us a like and hit the subscribe button to join our notification squad and be the first to see our latest videos.
Are you sure we want to do this?
In we go!
Okay, going in, yes!
It seems like every film Pixar brings to the silver screen is a hit, and in 2015, when Inside Out was released, audiences were blown away. It wasn't necessarily the absurdity of being inside a young girl's brain, but the truth behind it. When she and her family sit down and eat Chinese food together, that family drama can be more entertaining than talking zebras and magic carpets.
Buzz, look, an alien! Where? Ah!
Pixar's characters aren't all perfect. In Disney, there is always a line between good and evil, whereas in Pixar, their characters can teeter between both. In Toy Story, Woody is kinda mean, and that's okay. People aren't just one thing, and Pixar wants to show that. The characters in Pixar are more often confronted with a choice between right and wrong that we get to watch them figure out.
There. It's okay, Daddy's here. Daddy's got you.
Disney has always been known to tell once upon a time fairy tales that are significantly more escapist. Pixar has always dealt with more mature and often painstaking what-if scenarios that reflect the real world back to us. Disney comes out with Frozen while Pixar tells stories such as Up and Finding Nemo.
Everyone can be super. And when everyone's super, no one will be.
Ah, the old villain versus antagonist. Wait, aren't they the same thing? Actually, no. The difference is shown in Disney films versus Pixar films. In Disney, the villains drive the plot forward, such as Scar in The Lion King or Jafar in Aladdin. In Pixar, the antagonists pose a different threat, which is adding to the hero's troubles, not causing them. This allows Pixar's heroes to triumph on their own, not in spite of the villain. The opening of their films differs greatly. Disney seems to believe that if they let kids go without stimulation, including loud noises and fast images, kids will get bored. Pixar, on the other hand, takes risks in their openings, focusing on the emotional impact of images and story. Take Up or WALL-E as examples. There is barely any dialogue the first few scenes, but we don't lose any attention from the audience. If anything, it's more compelling. Disney is always making dreams come true. Their shtick since the beginning has been princesses and fairy tales, and it's always worked. We mean, it's called Disney magic for a reason. In the 2010s, Disney expanded their stories and settings, but still always come back to fantasy. It is just a smart marketing move. They built their name off wishes coming true, and that's what people want to see. Why did The Incredibles 2 take 10 years to make? Pixar is known for not doing sequels, whereas Disney will greenlight any as soon as they see the success of the first. Now, however, Pixar is doing sequels, but only if the story is warranted. Disney even releases direct-to-video movies to get every last dollar, so that's why The Incredibles 2 took so long to make. They hadn't found the right story yet. Patience is a virtue.
Hey, Ham, look, I'm Picasso.
I don't get it.
You uncultured swine.
The looks of the characters from Disney to Pixar vary greatly. Pixar always uses the look and face of the character to say something about who they are before they speak. Pixar puts time into texture and extreme details, such as the water in Finding Nemo or the facial expressions in Toy Story. But Disney has always stuck with the same beautiful, heart-shaped and big-eyed princess look for years, and we're certain it's going to stay that way for a while.
There goes the baker with his tray, like always. The same old bread and rolls to serve.
So we've all noticed that Disney is having a midlife crisis and making a live-action version of all their famous fairy tales. However, they are updating them to be slightly more modern. Beauty and the Beast isn't just about a young girl finding a husband, but also about the choices she makes. As for Pixar, they're in no danger of falling into this. Their stories rely so heavily on incredible animation it wouldn't serve to have a live-action Toy Story. Can you even imagine that?
Snorkel? No, don't worry. It's lemon.
Despite Pixar's main audience being children, their films are always accessible to adults. Pixar leaves in little pieces of gold for parents, double-sided jokes and innuendos, but the main thing is the adult topics that are confronted, such as mortality and midlife crises. Just look at The Incredibles or Finding Nemo. The subjects can relate to almost anyone.
Hey, what's going on? Yeah, where's the food?
What did you do?
It was an accident.
The heroes in Disney and Pixar films are vastly different. Disney heroes are mainly flawless, and if they do have flaws, they come from external sources. Pixar's heroes are actually personally flawed, so their stories follow characters learning and ultimately changing their ways. The stories end not when true love's kiss wakes them up, but when they realize how to become a better self. Marlin in Finding Nemo is always afraid, which he has to overcome. Woody is self-centered, which causes the drama of Toy Story. Through their flaws, we learn more and relate to them more. If they all start out heroic, then where can they go from there?
I am Merida, firstborn descendant of Clan Dumbrong, and I'll be shooting for my own hand.
Humans just being humans is something that Pixar does to perfection. Whereas Disney's name came from talking animals and princesses, Pixar built its reputation on real-life animation stories, which allows audiences to connect with their characters on a deeper level.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife.
Musicals are obviously Disney's bread and butter, so is Pixar staying away from them as not to compete with their father company? That is not the case. Pixar is open to a musical if it fits within the grounded story. They are a director-driven studio and invest their money in individuals with ideas. So until a director feels strongly that making a film a musical is the only way to tell the story, Pixar will stick to what is clearly working best. Coco definitely came close, so maybe we'll see a full-on Pixar musical soon. What do you think?
Now empty that safe. Money, money, money.
Art versus money is a classically old conversation, and it continues right up to the two leading animation studios. Disney cares more about money, while Pixar cares more about art. During the making of Coco, when Disney's business side got involved, they tried to trademark Dia de los Muertos, which is like attempting to trademark Christmas. Obviously, they received a ton of backlash, and they let that one go, but it was just because Pixar wanted to make a story surrounding the incredibly lively and colorful Mexican holiday, and Disney wanted to monetize it even more. Disney and Pixar both have shorts before their feature animated films from time to time. Before the film Coco, a 20-minute long Frozen short even scared audiences into thinking they were in the wrong film. The short got so much backlash that Disney even pulled it before Coco left theaters. At the other studio, Pixar always has engaging original shorts that take place in a completely different world than we've seen, and always seem to joyfully surprise audiences. Pixar's shorts are even as good as the main film. What's your favorite?
Oh no, I think I swallowed my squeaker.
Disney has eaten up Lucasfilm, Marvel, and are in the process of taking over Fox. They are a mega scary company with power no one wants to face. With Disney's long history of massive success, most people just do as they're told, but not Pixar. Pixar believes in their employees and their ideas, and they often push back against Disney. For example, they said no to Toy Story 2 becoming a musical, and thank goodness for that. One thing Pixar does that no one else does is say a big loud no to Disney when they need to.
Come on, Buzz. Yeah, ride like the wind, Bullseye!
Pixar often ends their films on a chase scene, when Disney often doesn't. This could potentially add to the strong climaxes of their films, whereas others think that it's a cop-out. Just look at Cars 2, Up, and Finding Dory. Do you think the chase scenes work?
Looks like it's gonna be a perfect day to maybe, hey, just lie in bed, sleep in, or simply work out that slab that's hanging over the bed! Get up, Sully!
Disney often tells love stories, whereas Pixar, more often than not, tells coming-of-age or buddy stories. Buddy stories are so relatable, and allow for characters to be more vulnerable and conflicted, whereas love stories are, once again, more in the fantasy arena. When they started it with Toy Story, it was revolutionary, and now it has become their signature. Disney is the same, making fantasy love stories their money-making bread and butter. Pixar takes us to grand worlds and through epic journeys, pushing characters out of their comfort zones in movies like WALL-E or Up. Pixar knows how to use the surroundings as an exciting new element to each story that pushes the film further. Disney mainly stays within the same limits and changes occur within that one place. It does seem like Moana and Wreck-It Ralph may be changing Disney's limits though. Do you think Disney will venture beyond their comfort zone more?
25 years ago, he revolutionized the animation industry.
Art challenges technology. Technology inspires the art.
John Lasseter, Pixar's chief creative officer, improved Disney immensely. According to most industry people, Pixar made Disney better, and Disney made Pixar worse. With Lasseter's leadership, Disney came out with innovative new films. On the flip side, Pixar lost a little of their originality and reverted to sequels. That being said, all their sequels are just as emotionally provoking, with stories as strong as the first. Was Finding Dory maybe even better than Finding Nemo?
To make a movie here at Pixar takes years, but it all starts with a story.
Pixar's writers are a very closed-off circle that new people rarely infiltrate. They are the only ones trusted to write and rework the stories. Pixar rarely relies on outside help. Apparently, it has gone so far that agencies won't even send their writers to Pixar. Disney is more willing to collaborate with new writers and keep them on for multiple projects if it works out, something Pixar won't do unless you are already one of the trusted in-house writers. Have the tides turned from 2009 onwards? Pixar was always known to not do sequels, as we mentioned, and Disney would give a sequel to anyone. Tinkerbell, Jafar, you name it. But in 2009, it became increasingly difficult to see the difference between the two major studios. With the release of Tangled and then Wreck-It Ralph, Disney was beginning to adopt Pixar's storytelling methods, while at the same time, Pixar started to fall back on sequels, Cars 2 and Finding Dory. Will Disney surpass Pixar in its original storytelling ways, or will Pixar always hold that title?
I pronounce this couple husband and wife.
Romance can be easier to write than marriages, but Pixar has nailed it to a T. The studio has enough skilled writers to make a marriage be the central conflict and still be entertaining. Take The Incredibles, for example. Disney, on the other hand, likes to show the romance and true love's kiss or none at all, like Moana.
Now, when we talk about the brain trust, it's not a group of people that exists all the time. It's what we call the group that come together to solve a problem, usually for meetings after we viewed what a film is, or a two-day offsite.
One major difference: the brain trust. What is the brain trust, you ask? Pixar has a core group that everything goes through at the studio. Screenwriters bring scripts there, and directors must show the visuals as they progress. Disney has a similar structure because John Lasseter went over to run the studio in 2006, but theirs is called the story trust, which is apparently significantly more gentle on writers. Pixar's brain trust has no problem letting people go mid-project if they aren't bringing what they need. Talk about tough love.
When I started directing Monsters Incorporated, the way I would pitch it is, it's about a monster who scares kids for a living. That's his job. He clocks in, he clocks out, he eats donuts, and talks about union dues, and we thought that was a pretty funny idea, and sure enough, when I would tell it to people, they would smile.
The biggest difference of all is the question, what if? Disney dives into the realms of any and all magical worlds. Pixar constantly asks the question, what if, in our own world? What if there were monsters running a business to scare kids? What if toys could talk? That question in itself is enough to ignite our imaginations and take them to the magical worlds that aren't on screen. But the true essence of Pixar comes from these fantastical questions, based on reality that we can all connect to. Long live Pixar!
To infinity and beyond!
What difference did you find to be the most interesting between the two major studios? Were any of them shocking? Do you prefer Disney or Pixar? Are there any differences that you noticed? Remember to hit the subscribe button for more great videos like this and give us a like. Thanks for watching and see you next time.